Three, two, one, action.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
How you doing, my friends?
I'm doing fantastic. How are we doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thank you. First of all, thank you for sticking with me. I know we've had like a few like this day, and then obviously a few little
It,
hiccups. But
it is a crazy schedule. I between like my regular day job and then wrestling on the road and stuff like that, it's all twisty.
I can
So
only imagine. But I don't know. I believe you have a family as well, so obviously that adds
correct.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just got done grocery shopping, awesome, super fun adult things to do. So
I feel the pain, my friend. But But again, like I said, thank you for doing this, man. I will be honest, for like to be fair, before like going right into it, before that incredible Mustafa Ali video came out, that obviously you had a big hand in, putting together back in I think end of December.
yep.
I honestly I can't say I was hugely familiar with yourself and like your work, but like when I saw the name and I saw obviously when Ali posted that, and I was like, oh, like who's this? Like, this is really cool. And the fact that, and then the combination of like what you were doing, the fact that obviously you are a wrestler, you've been wrestling since 2009, I believe. And then, you obviously do the videography work as well. I know you're a coach at a gym, and obviously kind of this really cool combination. And I was, oh, this is actually really fascinating. And also the fact that obviously you put together that amazing Mustafa Ali video. I was like, oh, this just be a really, really, really cool conversation. And on my end, like coming from it from like a film and wrestling standpoint, that combination, I was, oh, this is very, very cool. So
Oh yeah.
I gave you a very lame introduction there, but for those who aren't aware, could you give your introduction of who Craig Mitchell is?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess you could say I started early on just wanting to wrestle, but I always had interest in other things. So like for me, growing up, I always just wanted, I never wanted a real job. I mean, who really does, right? So I always wanted to pursue pro wrestling. I pursued music for a while, actually. That's kind of what I started in. So I was in a band for a bit. Nothing crazy, nothing like super serious. We did release a couple like, like 7 inches and stuff like that. We did tour a bit. So it was fun. Anything you ever want to do, you always want to do it at a high level, right?
Yeah.
So getting into that, like I knew we wanted to play music, but we wanted to, try our hand at touring. So that was something we wanted. We wanted to see if we can get like an album out on a label of some sort. So we did that. I think my focus shifted more towards wrestling. I started wrestling in 2009, but around 2012, I kind of felt like I may have more of a desire to pursue the wrestling thing. It's very similar. I mean, a lot of people don't really think of it that way, but pro wrestling and like music or even like stand-up comedy, like the kind of reps and the going on the road and trying this and taking material, not necessarily like if you were to think of like a comedian like taking material they work on. Same thing with wrestling. I mean, you work on spots, you work on your persona, you work on how your energy will feel in a room and the feedback you get from the crowd. So for me, like taking that and kind of seeing where I wanted to put my energy, I think I settled on wrestling more. And I think around that time was also like in my professional life, I was shifting to being mainly a coach. So I owned a small gym. I was focusing mainly on training like athletes at the time. So it was like a good mix, right? I can do, my wrestling, but then I can also like, coach and do whatever I want to do. And it was a good schedule for that. And I think those kind of allowed me to kind of keep moving in that direction forward. So the film side always was just kind of a hobby. It was just I never put much thought into it. It was always just we filmed some, because if you film your own stuff, well, you don't have to answer to anybody. So it was always
Yeah.
something we had, amongst our group. We had a camera, we had the ability to edit and do what we wanted to do. So it was something we had. We never really thought too much about. So taking the wrestling a bit further as we started, with I don't know if you're familiar with freelance. That's kind of where like all
Yeah.
of us come from, and that's where Ali, like when Ali was getting back into wrestling, that was where he like kind of started to get some traction.
Mm.
Now with that, we knew that we wanted to do it all on our own. So all the media, all of the like all of the different things that we wanted to be able to put out. So having that ability to shoot things and edit them and get things out on our own, it was kind of our own way of promoting ourselves. So moving a little further in the future, I think with Ali getting a little bit bigger, I think he had like the great idea of being like, well, now that I'm in the Cruiserweight Classic and I'm signed to WWE at the time, I think he wanted to just to be able to show maybe his character a bit more. So that's kind of where the video work came in. It was like, well, we have the camera, we have the footage. No one's really telling us yes or no. You could either film a promo in your car on your cell phone and it looks real lame, or we could create something a little bit more dynamic. And I think that's what took that little bit and then kind of moved it to that next phase. So it was kind of a good combination of things. It never really felt like it was going to grow into anything. So I think just like from starting wrestling back in the day, I mean, I think that's kind of where those two things kind of crossed. It was always just I wanted to do what I wanted to do. You know, we wanted to be able to, keep it. No one was telling us we had to do it this way or it had to look this way or could you film this for us? And then we hope and pray to God that like you get back to us and capture what we want to do. So a lot of the things that we did on our own terms led to that. I think because then we had at least we had the ability to do something like that. So I think it just kind of naturally allowed us to, when Ali approached us to, approached me to help him with stuff, it was like easy. It was like, I guess I got a camera and we just kind of shoot it on a Saturday after a show or whatever. So it was kind of organic, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And first of all, can I just say I admire and I love the kind of your willingness and just passion to pursue the things that you want to do. And I just love that in anybody. And hearing that, I think that's amazing. So congrats on that. And like I said, I admire that and I'm a big fan of that. And also, I mean, coming back to the wrestling side of things, you said, I mean, you talked about the music and then going more into wrestling. We're all, this is a really wacky world but like an absolutely wonderful world, professional wrestling. What attracted you, whether it was when you were older or a young kid, to wrestling and wanting to do that and be a part of that world?
So I always watched wrestling. I think like I can't even remember a moment where I was like, I think I'm going to start watching wrestling. It was like a lot of kids, I think in that like 90s era, like I'm not, I'm not a terribly old person, but I'm 34. So it's like in that 90s era, like wrestling was very much a part of just general culture as any other TV show. You get home, you watch something. It was just like football around our house. So it was like
Yeah.
we watched wrestling and we bonded over that and we watched all kinds of wrestling. It wasn't like we watched just WWF, we watched WCW. I remember we would watch ECW and it was like one of the things like, oh wow, this is like a whole nother vibe, like being able to be exposed to that. So I think the natural feeling of like, well, I like this. I wish I could do something like that. Like you get into, like we've talked about this before with some other folks, like the idea of like you watch basketball or you watch football and then you hang out on the weekends and it's like a catch-up game of basketball or you play football and you have fun. It was the same vibe for me with friends growing up. So naturally, I mean, I know that the backyard wrestling thing has never really been really appreciated in the past. It's starting to become a bit normalized now. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we did. We emulated what we saw and a strange thing about our backyard wrestling at that time was it started out as normal kids. We just want to backyard wrestle and have fun, mattresses and have matches. And then it spiraled into like real characters, real gimmicks, finding other friends in the area that would want to do this and making like our own fed, right? And then because of the internet, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the backyard wrestling link, and if you're not, that is something you should check out because some of the best talent in the world has come from
Fair.
this message board, and that's really where we got our itch to go. I don't think if we had that, there would have never been the possibility of like, oh, could we go and do this? Because it's not like college sports where you are good enough and then you're like, well, I guess I'll get signed to the pros. Professional wrestling is, do you have the desire to actually go from I think to I want to do this?
Yeah.
So for us, like we all backyard wrestled and it was fun. But then the next thing you know, we were messaging people in other states and like, can we do shows? Let's do a show together. And then we'll do like a big show. We'll get all these people together. And it's crazy. I wouldn't want to name drop anybody, but if you were to really look into this, there's a documentary on YouTube called The Link, a very good documentary. And it's
Okay.
about these group of guys and creating these like little backyard shows, but they had some of the best, like some of the best wrestlers in the world right now, or in the last 10, 15 years have really stemmed from that era. And it's incredible. But I think it gave us the groundwork. I mean, I would think of it as like the prerequisites to be able to train but carry yourself a certain way. So we would all create shows together. We would call matches like you would normally call a match. So like just if if me and some guy were to work a show today, we'd call the match, go through the spots, who's going to win, who's going to lose, how are we going to do it? And we did that, and it was kind of crazy because we were backyard wrestling doing that. We were calling spots, coming up with gimmicks, editing footage. I mean, that's maybe where more of the film stuff came in, because we were editing all our own highlight videos. We were multicam editing shows together. And this is backyard wrestling, no money, just fun. And I think when, we all wanted to start pursuing independent wrestling, the group that I went with was all the same guys we backyarded with. So we all knew each other. Now, when we went there, we can't go in there and be like, well, where'd you guys come from? Oh, we were backyard wrestlers. That was kind of like, taboo. But,
Yeah.
they had to think something. We came in, we're all like 18 years old, and we're able to do like, standing moonsaults, 450s off the top. We're all doing all this crazy stuff. We just lacked some of the basics.
Yeah.
Like how would you carry yourself in a professional manner in the ring? How would you, work real simple holds and pacing and all this? But once we started to learn that, these guys, I mean, they had to know something. Like, where the hell these guys learn this? Like, nobody walks in off the street with the ability to do and take and move and have these ideas and call matches really good. So that was where we really got our start. I mean, I'm not saying it accelerated us to where like we were like instant great, but they knew, like, from our first match onward, they were like, well, these guys are, we could put them in anything, because they at least are resilient, they're sharp enough, and they can take, any kind of basic movement and make it look good. So we were really good enhancement talent when we started. Our first year or two on the indies was awesome. They were just, you guys, oh, this guy does this move good, he takes it really good. And they would just put us in these, these crazy matches. So that was kind of how we got our start. I mean,
Yeah.
that would be like me and like Matt Nix, the guy who runs freelance, along with those guys. And then, Chris Castro and Alex Olson, like that was kind of that group I broke in with. And that's how we all came. We all backyarded together. We all trained together, and then we broke into wrestling at the same time together.
Yeah, I mean, selling is a damn good art form,
Oh,
and
yeah.
having it down. I think Bret Hart, I think he said during his first couple of years, he was like, yeah, no one could take an ass kicking like Bret Hart could in
Yeah.
his first few years. But oh, sorry, you go.
I was gonna say, I think that's what maybe created more of like a humble approach. Like, I don't think any of us ever came in. It was like, I'm gonna be the best. I want to
Mm.
me. It was more like, this is cool, man. Like, I get to do this, and like, someone's gonna give me like, I mean, I remember like 2009. I'm like, somebody's gonna give me $20 to do something that I do for free for fun. This is crazy, I mean, obviously, like, you get a little bit better, but I remember the first time someone handed me anything, it was like, I've been doing this for free for like 5 years, right? Like, it was so, it blew my mind.
Yeah. No, it's funny because you say the backstage backyard wrestling, and it does still in some ways have that a little bit of that kind of the taboo, or the connotation of like, oh, that's not real wrestling kind of thing. And that's maybe partly why I laugh a little bit when you were saying that story. But it's a genuine thing, and also it's funny that obviously you're from Chicago, I believe I'm correct, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
yep.
in Punk's documentary, the WWE documentary that came out like 10 years ago, he talks, there's like a whole chapter on when he created a backyard wrestling thing when he was
LWF.
yeah. And then obviously
That's right down the road.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So
like
it's literally where I live. Like,
yeah.
10 minutes down the road is Midlothian, and they used to wrestle in this. They used to call it the Midlow Dome. It's it's a bingo hall. My mom used to go play bingo there when I was a kid.
Oh
It's
wow,
literally
that's
right
nuts.
down the street. That's where CM Punk and all those guys, like, I mean, like, both him and his brother, they worked for this indie wrestling company that started as
Yeah.
a backyard called LWF. So you're dead right. That was right there.
Oh wow, that's wicked, man. I mean, but that's what I mean. Like that's like, obviously we're going to go by names and stature. Like there's very few bigger than CM Punk, and he started
Yeah.
in there, and it was a legitimate thing where he was talking about they were making money, and then obviously then he went into obviously the Indies, Ring of Honor, etc. So there is legitimacy behind people starting that way, as much as like we kind of laugh about it, but there's real legitimacy there. and it's kind of
Oh,
proven.
it's unbelievable. I mean, like I don't want to say names, not because I don't think they would be, I don't think they would be upset, but it's just like it's not my place. But it's like one of those things like if you really knew who started out yarding or who was a part of this message board, it would blow your mind. Like some
Mm.
of the best in the world. And like I'll even give an like here's a name that I don't think is like weird or anything like that. But we had a freelance match a couple of years back, and it started as a joke. And I don't think any of these guys would mind. But we started it like we were like we should have a backyard wrestling link scramble. We won't call it that, but we'll just have a scramble. But people who know will know. And we had this scramble match, and it was the best. It was me, Alex Zane, Daniel McCabe, Ricky Shane Page. We had Flip Kendrick, Lewis Linden, and Tony Deppen, I think, was in the match. So there, 6 backyard wrestling link guys. But at that time, everybody just was like, "Oh, this is a cool scramble match." But for us, we're like, they'll know. These are all like from all different areas. The only 2 guys, maybe Michigan, because you got the Flip Kendrick and Lewis because they're brothers, but those were all separate backyard wrestling people at the time. And we all found our own way, and we went on to do whatever we're doing. But we thought it'd be cool to kind of put us all in one match together. And like I said, people who knew were like, "That's cool," but other people were just like, "Oh, this is a cool match." But really, in all, those were just 6 random guys from the backyard wrestling message board that just happened to also still be wrestling. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, that's cool, and it was kind of it's kind of a win-win as well. Like people either just think it's a really cool match, or obviously they know
Yeah,
the behind the scenes, if you will.
yeah,
Um, Watching some of your matches, man, as well. I will say, obviously, I would classify you, I guess we would say, as a big man wrestler, if that's fair to say.
yeah. Until you
Um,
meet me and you're like 5'7", Jesus Christ.
there's been
But
some short big men over the
yeah,
years.
I'm like, you're familiar with Wild Boar, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, like that is the same stature of me. Like everybody always puts us in the same category as like more of like a hoss battle kind of.
yeah,
Then you meet us, and I'm like, I'm 5'7", but I'm like 270 because I'm just
yeah.
like kind of stocky. And they're like, well, I don't. He's so little, like the short guy. So I don't know. I'll take it if they
But
want to. If they want to put me as a hoss, big guy, whatever. And then I get there, and they're like, this little guy.
from watching you, I would say, and also considering being 270, you're a damn athletic 270. Some of the things you do, man, very impressive. No, I mean, over time, obviously you're not a kid and thinking like I'm a big guy. Obviously, when you obviously build could fill into your frame over time, and obviously you understand how you wrestle, etc. Did you ever, or have you ever drawn inspiration from like other big men in professional wrestling? Like I don't know if you could classify yourself in the category, but like the Bad Bad Biglows or whomever in the world.
I always loved Taz. Like
Mm,
Taz was like my thing growing up. But like I don't really do suplexes like Taz. But the thing about Taz that I liked was he was so intense.
mm,
And like I like the way I wrestle, and I tell this to everybody, like I don't do a lot of things. And it's not that I didn't do a lot of things. I'm sure if you scour through the media, you'll find me doing like 630s and all this crazy goofy shit. I do not do that anymore. Um, Partially just because I feel like now I operate on I think the best wrestling match is a match that does not lose or does not sway from the moment. And I think what causes matches to sway and dip from the moment is error. So when you botch or when things happen or when things are just like, but like over, like the or over choreographed, right?
mm.
So we all know, we're all fans. We see things and we're like, that is crazy awesome. It's not my style, but I can appreciate that as a fan. And I think the thing is like you can never stop being a fan. As long as I've been wrestling, I've never stopped being a fan. But I know what draws me in and what pulls me out. And I'm not saying what I do is necessarily the greatest for everybody, but it's kind of like how do I reduce error? Well, I try to do things that are going to be, you know, very, very low risk, high reward. And I think that style is you can't mess up intensity. When someone's intense and when someone strikes hard and when someone's aggressive, it doesn't take, I don't have to call that to you. Like if me and you are working a match and I grab you and I move you and I hit you and I turn around and I look at the crowd and everyone like is in that moment, we didn't have to make that go one or the other. It just happened. Now, when
Mm.
it's like, I'm going to do this and you're going to duck this and you're going to do this and you're going to pop, I can't, I can't always guarantee that's going to go well. Now, as professionals, will it go better than most? Probably. But the second that it doesn't, how do you recover from that? And I don't have the, I'm not, you know, that kind of guy that's so quick and resilient and be able to move and capture that. And I just don't want to create that environment. So I always loved intensity because intensity is genuine. So
Mm.
like guys like Taz, or I'm trying to think of like who I would think that's just like so like brutal. Like, and it's like a lot of the bigger guys, like you
Samoa
mentioned,
Joe,
like Bam,
maybe.
yeah, like a Samoa Joe, right? Like it doesn't look, when you're watching Samoa Joe wrestle, it doesn't look like he's thinking other than he
Mm.
trying to win. Now, when I'm watching this and it's like, grab this, duck this, turn around here, whoop, whoop, jump into a wheelbarrow. Whoop. There's a lot of thinking going on. There's a lot of
Yeah.
calculated risk. And that's not my style. And it's not saying I can't work that style. Like if somebody, I work with someone that's a little bit quicker, I can do it. But it's like, how would you make that match? Like, because if we were fighting in real life, my style's my style. I don't go, oh, this guy's a grappler. Oh, well, now I have to learn how to grapple. Like I'm doing what I do.
Mm.
So it's finding that balance. So that's why my move set over the years has just stripped down and been more reactive, in the sense of like, how is this guy going to move and how would I stop that person, or how would I cause that person to not be able to succeed? If they're quick, how would I slow them down? And I think that's just smart wrestling in my head. But at the same time, that's what the fans like. I'm not the highlight guy. Like nobody's gifting my matches. But when you
Mhm.
go to the show, you're like, well, that match was great because this guy was doing something entertaining. He was stopping the guy. He was talking to the crowd. He was being the over the top heel. That's what I love to be. Babyface stuff, maybe. Look at me. Nobody's like, yes, but they might go like, well, I appreciate this guy's keeping, this match this way rather than, turning it into a synchronized swimming match, because it's just my different styles. I appreciate it all, but it's just for me. I think that's where I drew the inspiration of like, I don't want to be pulled out of the moment. I want the
Mm.
match to start and end, and I go, well, that's as real as it could goddamn get. That could have been a real fight. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's I think people, especially in the world we live in now, I this goes for like everything. Everything is quick fire, flash, gify stuff, right? Like what can be turned into a gif is like the trend and what captures our attention. But if you go with like, but who's like sometimes like the biggest stars, or not, or sometimes, if not often, but like Brock Lesnar, he was a massive monster and everything was believable and real, told a story, and it was the most successful, most engaging stuff 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, that's actually that. I mean, that's the art of wrestling as well, isn't it? Like that's the true art of it.
You saying that made me think of something. Like I mean, I would never ever say this. Like, and I would never want anybody to think of this of me. Like, I don't think that what I do is the answer, or I think
Mm,
is the only truth. And
sure.
nobody really is that way. But I think people can have a good way of explaining something and have someone go, ah, or maybe that speaks to me. But if the greatest talents don't always make the greatest coaches, and the greatest coaches don't always build the greatest talent. And I know that, and that's a very common thing to realize. No one is the best but you said something that made me think of it. I did a seminar in the summer,
Mm.
and we were talking about like composing a match or carrying yourself in a match. And I was talking to one of the guys, and I go like, well, imagine if you were reading a book, but in the middle of reading the book, someone kept interrupting you, and you had to keep like, okay, cool. And you're out of the book, you're talking to them, and then you go back to the story, and you're trying to pick up where you left off. That is like the same thing as like watching a match. The match starts, the match commences. I'm reading the story. I'm watching the story. The crowd is co-authoring the story. I come out, boo, they're giving input. So it's like we're all invested in the story. But what if a couple times during that match, I kept pulling you out of the match because what I was trying to do was too ambitious and I messed up. I tried to do this over the top movement and I fell, or he fell, or we tried to do something and I missed him and I fell, and everyone's taken out of the match. Now, what we could have been going for could have been the next greatest move in professional wrestling. It could have been so ambitious. And if we would have hit it, it would have been everywhere. We would have blown up. It could have changed our lives. But we messed up. But now we've mitigated the risk. We had a match that started and ended, kept you immersed. We chipped away at trying to build up, build up, build up, build up. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. We give you a little bit of something. Maybe it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's effective. You feel something. When it's 1-2 and I kick, you lose your mind because you can't believe it. And then it ends and you're like, well, that was everything I wanted it to be. It was from the beginning to the end. I watched and I did not get pulled out of the match. How do you create something like that? And it's like, well, I'm going to actually think about what would I be able to do to anybody? What is a move set that I can do to anybody? Right? If my finisher is this like top rope Spanish fly and I'm working with someone who's brand new and they're scared of heights, guess what? I don't get to do it. But if I'm working with a guy that's like 500 pounds, unless I'm Shane Mercer flipping the guy over, it might not happen. So it's like I'm trying to create a move set that's universal. I'm trying to create a wrestling language or a gimmick that's universal. If I went to England or Mexico or, you know, somewhere in the Middle East and I came out and I acted the way I did and I gave them that face and they were like, well, that's the bad guy. They don't have to think about it. And I think that's what I've focused so much energy on. Now, by no means am I the greatest wrestling talent ever, by no means at all, because I definitely am not. But that thinking in the right hands of somebody, they could just be like, oh, that unlocked my brain. That made me think more positively. And that could create someone from being decent to amazing, right? Just giving them the idea of being like, well, why would I waste my time doing something that I can't do to everybody? Because I think the universal opponent, although they might not get the greatest praise as like, you know, a superstar, but if they're like, well, this guy can work with anybody or this girl can work with anybody, they're always going to be more valuable. They'll be useful in any situation. So that's what I've always really, and I know my days are numbered. I'm not going to be wrestling too much longer. I'm kind of not saying I'm on my way up, but I mean, like, I'm very realistic with my ability, but my mind is sharp. And if we can portray that onto people and we can give people that kind of mindset, who knows what kind of, you know, freak athlete that can create for wrestling. Someone who's easy to work with, you know, easy to develop, but also like they have a mind sharp enough to know that what I'm going to do is, you know, pretty close to flawless. I mean, they're going to have good matches all the time. It's never going to be, oh, that match, they suck. They tried something, they couldn't get it, you know? So I think that's kind of where my brain kind of operates these days.
That's a really interesting perspective, and I love the fact that the co-authoring of the audience. I mean, and I think that's a fact, and then there's a reason, like, you know, people always, you know, the highest level of performers have always said, you know, listen to the crowd, because if they should, you know, if that's who you're doing it for. So
Yeah.
obviously you've got to give them what they want. So no, I think that's really fascinating, and it's also actually interesting to hear you say that and see how your mind works, because that kind of naturally almost parlays into something like the videography work that, you know, you're doing seemingly a little bit more of nowadays. Like so your mind is, you know, that, because that's another form of storytelling. Like, how do you
Yeah.
construct this, you know, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute video package to convey this very, very, because in 2 minutes is a very quick period of
Yeah.
time, and you've got
Oh
to get
yeah.
across a certain message. So and then it's really interesting to see, like, it's kind of like your whole career's way, in a way, like you've just tried it. I just wanted to do music, so I just tried it. I just wanted to do wrestling, so I just, you know, you threw yourself in, you did it, and then through these little things, you've in and out been doing the videography stuff and putting
Yeah.
together video packages, just doing it. So it seems like, I don't know, you tell me if, of course, if I'm wrong, that that's kind of been like a self-taught thing. You've just kind of dived into it and done it. And
Oh yeah.
is it now? I mean, and what stage? I mean, because now is obviously you kind of advertise that as well a little bit, like, you know, I can, if you want me to do projects, like I saw kind of on your social media and stuff. So when did it get to the point where you're like, actually, you know, this could be another thing that I can do as a, you know, part of my career?
Yeah, and like it's like I think it became idea where it was like, okay, can we create something that is both easy, simple, accessible, but also sharp enough for the masses?
Hmm.
Not necessarily saying I'm going to produce a commercial for Pepsi or something like that, but there is a middle ground. And
Yeah.
I think we're all aware of this, especially in the day of social media, where social media is such ingrained in us. There's zero production, and zero production I think oftentimes gets confused with gear. Like they have no gear. or they have but it's not that. Gear don't matter. It's the story. But the story is also tied to like the actual, what's the word? It would be like, it would be tied into like the actual like what is your motivation? Are you motivated to make this mean something? If I put a red, you know, 30, $40,000 camera on a tripod and I sat in my car still and I went, Tuesday, August 2nd, I'm coming down to it would be the same damn video. It would just be shot on a higher production version of something that we still don't care about. But dynamic, theatrical styling, cinematic, like that feeling of making some. At the end of the day, you're telling someone, because they're not telling you, you're telling them, this is my story. You're telling them this is bigger than something else because I'm giving it effort by giving it that cinematic look. Doesn't take a lot of effort to do that. You're just shooting it in a way where you're making it look like it's bigger than it is. It doesn't have to be the greatest camera, the greatest lens, the greatest editing software. It's just you're taking the time to make it move or make it seem like it's more than it is. And that doesn't take too much effort. It's just you're putting effort into it. And by creating that vibe of this is something versus just, yeah, I hit record and I'm just telling you something. Even if it's not the greatest thing in the world, someone will still, when they're swiping, will kind of go, oh, what are they doing here? Okay, well, I can see that they're at least going for something. You know, they're trying to do something different, and points are ready for that. But then if you can find a way and actually, you know, have a beginning, a middle, and an end, have it look good, sound good, you automatically win. Now, is everybody in the world going to watch it? No, right? You don't know. But when we started doing these videos with Ali, it was just an idea Ali had, like, hey, I think I'd like to shoot some promos. And I just kind of went, well, I know I'm not the greatest videographer. I know I don't have the greatest gear, but those are excuses. If I would have been like, sorry, man, like, I don't have really good cameras. I'm not WWE. Instead of doing that, hide the negatives, accentuate the positives. Hey, we can shoot this in one day. It'll cost us $0 and we're editing it. No one else is editing it. So we have all the say. Now, if they want to post it, cool. If they don't, whatever. Didn't cost us much. It's not like a $10,000 production and we sent it in and one of the producers was like, no, we don't want to use it. So all it takes is you just got to have a little bit of initiative. He had an idea. If I were to sit down and show you every Ali promo we ever filmed, there's more of them than have ever been released. There's so many of them. And they all started kind of in the same as a little idea he had. Hey, I should just show me being at the school interacting with the students. Cool, let's film it. Okay. Well, now I have an idea. Maybe we talk about my backstory as being a police officer. Easy. Well, should I just be standing here talking about it? No, how about you're talking about it and we'll do like a voiceover where like we show you walking, we show like B-roll of you moving around, and then maybe we make it look dark so it's like kind of gritty. Maybe we shoot it on like I had a 50mm lens, easy Canon, $150. Shoot it tight because when you shoot it tight, it creates a cinematic look. All right, we'll shoot it in 24 frames a second like a movie. Like these are all little itty bitty things. We could have shot it on a cell phone, but we didn't. We just took a little bit of gear, didn't cost much. I mean, I had more expensive gear, and I'm like, I think if we shoot it on this like Canon M, I've been shooting most of the promos on this Canon M50. It's like a little. I actually got it as a webcam originally. Like I thought it was a good idea because it's a cheap camera.
Yeah.
Put a 50mm lens on it, put the frame rate to 24 frames a second, you wouldn't even know. Because when you're watching this, very few people are watching these promos on a television. And that was a conscious decision.
Yeah.
We went, they're going to be looking at it on their phone. So
Yeah.
that was a smart idea. And then, you know, he kept coming up with these ideas. Like every one of the ideas he had, it was never no. It was, well, that's your idea, man. And this is your vision. Let me just hope to God I'm grasping it. And I think because there was no producer, it was just, I have an idea. Okay, cool. Let's shoot this. When? We could do it right now. All right. You know, there was no that because you know, like if you're working on big projects with a bunch of different people, it gets complicated. But this was just
Mm.
a point A to point B, straight line. That was all it was. And the craziest thing about that is if you look at some of the early day promos, there's nothing special about them at all. Like the one for WrestleMania with Cedric Alexander, the idea, I think, I honestly, I don't remember what he said, but I'm pretty sure he pitched, I just want to shoot it in black and white, and I want it to look like one of those like 90s like hip hop rap videos, like an NWA or something like that. So we filmed it in black and white, natively in the camera, didn't edit it after. I'm like, I'm gonna shoot it. It's either gonna look the way it is or it's not.
Mm.
Filmed it, shot it, tight angles on the face. I think we let the focus drift a bit, so it kind of created the grittiness of it. We didn't do any kind of like, we did all manual focus. So then it created the like the vibe of like I'm watching him talk to me. Like my eyes are adjusting as the focus is adjusting. And that was what we thought was a good idea. They used that for WrestleMania. That promo cost $0.
So
$0.
that was so. Oh man, I mean, it's so that was for the, I think it was 2018 WrestleMania, I think
It could, I think
2034,
so.
yeah, against
Yeah, and it
Cedric,
was
yeah.
just yeah, it was just an idea. He was like, "Well, I just want to shoot it." We met at the, one of the schools we were training at the time. I think we filmed it in like 15 minutes. One of the other
Wow.
promos we did was the one in the rain. The one where it was like, I'm taking on a new road, whatever. And he's like walking in the rain and he's walking towards the camera. Easy, easy. I think we shot like 6, 7 takes. The rain, $0. Just raining that day. And, you know, all we thought about was, okay, if you were standing in one spot, is that because we've done that promo, you're standing in one spot. But if he was walking towards you and he's delivering this message, walking towards you, talking, it's creating the imagery and the storytelling of I'm driving forward. That's all it was. Good idea on his end. He had the promo already written. I think he met me there. I think we shot it in a few takes and we were good to go. The rain just added some, I guess, some flavor to it, but $0.
Hmm.
$0. And if you look at a lot of those, like, I mean, I'm sure there could have been other things that could have been done. They could have been higher quality. They could have been more in focus. They could have been something, but they weren't. But if you read the comments, if you look, like, if you're thinking of it at the end of the day, who are the videos for? Are the videos for him? Are the videos for me? Or are they for the fans? And if you read the comments, all the fans were like, this is amazing. This is what we want. This is what we need. That's what they wanted, and it costs $0.
I mean, that is amazing. And all, I didn't know that I assumed from like some of the social media posts that you guys were friends and there was a longer standing relationship, but I didn't actually know that you were involved in, obviously naturally you just assume whatever's on WWE programming. It's
Yeah,
WWE, it's WWE produced, shall we say. So I
yeah,
mean that's amazing that it goes as far back and you had a hand in his WWE career as well. But obviously going like moving forward now, obviously I see why obviously he's come back to you to do this, Kickstarter video for his whole, Ali World Tour. When he came with that idea, because obviously now he's left WWE and obviously he wants to now, because we've seen the impact that guys who've come from WWE after that exposure and have come to the independents or, going around the world, the impact that they can have. But the start has been like a key thing. Cody Rhodes with the list, Drew McIntyre going to ICW, kind of that big promo, and then setting the tone for the whole thing. So when he came with this idea, like of the Ali World Tour and In Ali We Trust, this whole kind of political campaign, was it a similar process? Like in the sense of like, okay,
yeah,
this is kind of my idea, and how are we going to go? How are we going to do this? Or how is this going to come to life?
yeah. It was in and like we've always had. I've had a few people ask me this too. It's never been complicated. Like
Hmm.
my thing is this: like any project we've ever worked on together, I'm just happy to be a part of the project. Like
Hmm.
for me, this is fun. I'm not trying to put my own 2 cents in and be like, no, you should be like this. He comes with a good idea, and I just try to hope I understand what he's saying. And that's why, like, I think in your case, it's kind of funny because, like, well, if you're not aware of all the different videos we've shot, or the ones, and there's the ones that no one's seen,
Hmm.
it's wild because if you kind of see bits and pieces from certain videos because he comes up with these crazy ass ideas, and we're like, well, how do we make that work? Could it work, or is it stupid? or is it awesome and we don't even know? Like, and I think like with this one, and I'll tell you about two other videos we shot that kind of lead to this one. So earlier on, when he was still working WWE, there was a video that he wanted to do where we were like, all right, well, a lot of these videos are kind of like the tone is very like, it's very like cryptic, or it's very darker tone. Like, this is my story. This is what I want. And then we did the Austin Theory video. I don't know if you've seen this one where he's like the old woman and he's screaming and he's like the newscaster. We shot like a slapstick kind of funny one. We did that one and it was kind of like, could we do a higher production video? Now, I will never ever put myself out there as being like a high level videographer. I think of myself as a run and gun guerrilla style. It's gritty. It looks like we shot it through my own eyes. That's it. And if it's easier, the turnaround is quicker. It's something that's real. Now, is it something you'd put on, like USA Network or something crazy as like a TV show? Definitely not. And that's not what we're trying to be. But we figured enough people these days, and I don't know if this is maybe like where the thought originally came from, but think of it. People scroll through TikTok, Instagram, Reels. It's all shot by you, for you. Very little of it is high production companies. So when we were shooting stuff, it was like, it's so tangible. It looks like you could have shot it. And I don't know if that creates a dynamic. So he came up with this idea to do the Austin Theory, where it was like he was asking people about Austin Theory and all of the characters were Ali. It's kind of funny. So it was like, could we do comedy? He had this great idea. We shot it. It came out really well. So that was kind of the idea of like, could Ali be less of like, I'm just Mustafa Ali and I wrestle, or more like I'm Mustafa Ali and I can entertain you, probably, like, can I create that? And then we did the video where he like went up to the podium and it was like a presidential campaign.
Yeah.
That one didn't get released. And I think he ended up putting it on Twitter months after we shot it. We shot it like in the middle of COVID when nobody was able to go anywhere. One of the guys that he knew like rented out a church, and we went to the church again, $0. And we just went to the church, put the screens that Mustafa had his like logo for on the screens. It looked like it was like shot in a amazing facility, but it was just a church for free in the middle of COVID. Nobody was using it. We shot that. And then that was kind of like the moment of being like, oh shit, like this looks big. It isn't big, but we can make it look like you're this grand guy out here on this podium talking to the people. And when he started coming up with ideas like that, my brain was like, this is crazy. Like, we started, like, the first video is like, I'm a police officer and now I'm wrestling for WWE, to like, I am Mustafa Ali and I'm running this campaign and I'm doing this, this, and this. And it was such a natural progression. If we would have went from one to the other without the middle, I don't know if I would have been able to think I could do it, right? Or like he would have
Yeah.
been telling me shit. I've been like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do that. But I think because his mind is so like, he's got such good ideas, and he has like more confidence in himself than I could imagine. Like, he's like, I want to do this, and he just does it. Me, I'm like, I don't know, I got to think about it. So when the next video was pitched, we came up with that idea of the campaign. Well, he came up with the idea of the campaign, and I kind of was, trying to help him work through it. That was the first video that didn't cost $0. The first one. But it's crazy because when you look at it, it's like it's the first video that you're like, whoa, this looks like a production. Like, we had lights, we had extras, we had
Yes.
he got a G-Wagon for it. Like, it was wild.
A
Now,
helicopter.
yeah, it was like, thank you, Shutterstock. But but like when we were filming it, he kept telling me like, I hope this isn't too much for you. And I'm like, I don't ever want to tell you no, but I hope that this is what you want. Like, I hope this is like giving you, because like at any level, there's always going to be a level where someone is tapped and like they kind of like are, and I'm not saying that like I'm not going to be able to progress, but I also don't want to hold anyone back either. Like, I don't want to get through the production and go like, sorry, man, you might need to work with a professional or you could stay with me and I could just, I'm sweet and I'm charming, but could I get you to the next level? And I think it turned out really well.
It
And I
was
think,
fantastic.
but the thing that probably worked really well was also, it wasn't oh, this is my idea, and then there was someone going pushing back. It was, this is my idea, and I was just like, I don't want to do anything other than to give you that vision, whatever you want. Like the editing process, I'd edit something, send it to him. He'd send it back to me. Edit it, send it back. And like we did that back and forth throughout the holidays. And I every time was like, I do not care how many edits I have to make. I want you to make sure that it is, from, A to Z, the way it should be, how it should be laid out. And I think because the connection from him to me to get it edited is just us two, it turned out the way he wanted it to be. And I think if there were more hands in it, I think that's where things get complicated. Now, going forward with his TNA run and everything like that, I'm not sure what that looks like. I've seen some stuff they've put out and I saw it. I'm like, that's like what I shot, but that's like 10 times better than what I could shoot. And that's fine though, because if that's what they're shooting and they're shooting it based off of something that I shot, cool. I'm just happy to be here. Like that.
Yeah,
It's not like, oh, now I'm not going to be able to shoot, promos anymore. I'm sure down the line, we'll work together and set something up. But I think, getting him, what he was looking for, like that's all I cared about. That was cool for me. It
yeah,
was just like happy to be a part of the process.
yeah. And you mentioned it earlier there, and like it just for the reason obviously I come at it from this kind of style of like wrestling and film, like this is my fascination, is my background's in film. I also still teach film to students, and also obviously massively into professional wrestling as well, so that combination fascinates me. But watching the video, I'll leave the most recent one, the campaign, it was how you filmed it that impressed me the most. Where you talked about earlier, accentuating the kind of the positives and like hiding the weaknesses. It was so cleverly done. The tight shots, like on the crowd, like of on Ali, the close ups, the crowd. Like we don't see everything. We see what
Correct.
we need to see, and that looked fantastic. That looked believable. The lighting was very cool, and I was just as much as obviously the video all came together really well. The music that obviously is in the video, he's been using like throughout in different shows. I actually saw him in Progress in London a few weeks ago, and he was obviously had the music from the video. It all came together, but the way you filmed it and how intelligently you filmed it probably impressed me more than anything. I was just like, oh, this is very, very clever and very, very well done. And obviously the reaction was, just tremendous. And but like when you were putting it together and the idea came to you, how quickly did the wheels start to turn there as almost like the filmmaker side of like, okay, I will shoot it like this, we'll go close up, we'll do this, we'll do this.
It was like right away because like I think like anybody has a style, right? And like I'm
Mm.
not saying like my style is like are you familiar with Casey Neistat, the vlogger, right?
Vaguely, not too much, but I've
So
had the name.
he he is an interesting filmmaker because I don't know if he's ever said this, but when I watch his work, whether it's a vlog or it's a commercial he's produced, it's it feels like you could do it, but not in a way of being cheap. It feels like you're watching it in like your eyes. Like it's not like when you watch like a really high production something, you're very aware you're watching like something that is highly produced, highly polished. There's almost like the sense of like I'm only seeing what I'm seeing because I'm being told I can see this.
Hmm.
But then there's like the way of like watching something like really gritty, where like you watch it again and then you watch it again and it feels it's a little shaky. It's not perfectly in focus, but it's like it's kind of nice. It's like very documentary feel. Like you feel like you're like, oh, this happened down the street. Like I know this guy. Like, and I liked that vibe because if everything was locked off, if everything was perfectly in focus, I think it would take away from the fact that like what this guy is talking about, what this guy is doing, where he is not real. It's fictitious, made up WWE land. But this guy is here and he's talking to you and he's doing this. So when we were filming the earlier promos, nothing was ever on a tripod, nothing was ever on a stabilizer. Like we did a few like steady cam shots. It just looked weird. Um, the only time we've ever used a steady cam was we did a video where like he filmed the promo in 60 seconds. And like the promo was, I don't know if you've ever seen this one where it was like the clock starts, he tells the promo, and while he's talking to me, he's walking in a 360 and it's
Oh,
following him. And then when it gets to the end, he says, and you're out of time or something like that. And the clock goes like, boot, and the promo ends. It's a 1 minute promo, but on a clock in real life. But while he's moving, I couldn't have the camera like jittering around. So
Yeah.
that made sense. But a lot of the other stuff was always just like, it felt like he was talking to you and you were like in the frame talking. So that type of style is, I think, easy to reproduce, right? Because if we keep having to take after take after take, I don't have to keep moving lights around because I'm moving. But also like because I'm using prime lenses only, so no zoom lenses, I'm shooting wide open, like is wide open as I could be. So if it's a 50, I'm shooting like 1.8, 1.4, like as bright as I could, because we're shooting in pitch black usually. So because of that, I know that it creates a lot of focus drift. And I like that because it feels like my eyes or your eyes are adjusting to him as he's talking. So as he's moving in and out of frame, I'm trying to refocus as I'm trying to like almost reassess what I'm looking at, which I like that. I don't want anything to be out of focus, but I do like the ability of being like, could I create, like, when you're looking at something and your eyes move a little bit out of frame and you kind of readjust and see things closer or further apart. I like that little focus breathe, but not in like the idea that I'm trying to use like the tap focus and it kind of is guessing what I'm looking at. I'm telling you where to look, but I'm kind of finding him in frame. So that was kind of always a conscious thing. But also, I really think the dark look. I think if things are really bright, and I get this all the time from like my daughter, she hates everything. It's like everything's so dark. But I think when it's dark, it sets the tone. Except the only video that was really bright would have been the Austin Theory video, which was intentional, right? It's funny.
Yeah.
Funny
Yeah.
is bright, serious is dark.
Yeah.
Shades of blue, a lot of shades of blue, just to kind of create that feeling of like what I'm telling you is serious and what I'm telling you I understand and I know that this is wrestling, this is a gimmick, this is a predetermined sport, but for the next 2 minutes, this is some serious shit I'm talking about. This is as serious as a crime. This is as serious as, a documentary about a murder. Like it's dead serious. So that cold feeling of blues and grays, that's when I would shoot it that way. Because I mean, I don't want it to look like I'll be there next month and I'm going to do this. And then like, it's like blue, like bright blue and orange. And it's like, kind of looks like it was shot in a summer day. It just doesn't look right unless it's, I don't know, unless that's maybe what he would be going for, but he never commented on that. So it always kind of was like, well, I think dark looks good. And he's just like, I like it. I like it. I like it real tight because also a lot of the places we're shooting are not exciting.
Yeah.
At all. It's like a parking lot, or it's like in like that place we shot the big promo. There's a little studio. If that frame would have went any longer outside of that, you would have realized that it was all make believe in there.
It would have taken us out of the world.
100%. Nobody knew where the hell they were. It was such a disorienting feeling. And also, everything was shot like I was in the crowd. Like I'm moving through the crowd, like the one we're moving through. Because if it would have been like anything other than that, it would have looked like a strange, like real campaign. Like it would have been like some propaganda film. Like we wanted to make it look like he was talking to you and you happened to be there. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I love the show. I mean, that's the thing. I actually, funnily enough, was telling this to my students yesterday about like mise en scène and these kind of things. I was like, we control what the audience sees. So I was like, if we don't have the resources, let's not show that. Let's just like really go zoom in and be like, okay, let's just focus on this part. Don't worry about everything else. Because I was like, that's where we're going to take people out of the world. And you have these, I love in particular the shot where the camera is like Ali's walking to the camera, and it's just one of those like that's like the real flash shot. I think was just really, really cool, and it made him feel like, you talk about being cinematic and make it feel big, like that made him feel like a big deal. And I think that's the shot where I think it probably got a lot of people, and the buzzworthy shot where everyone's like, oh, like okay, like Ali's coming.
That's the shot that a lot of people use. Like when people were clipping frames and stuff out of it.
Yes.
The one of him like right when the music hits and he's walking.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, and honestly, that was just like, okay, we gotta get B-roll of you coming in the building. But we had to show you. But like him, brilliant idea on his end, getting like students to be Secret Service and stuff with him. Because I mean, like, again, it didn't take much, but it made it look so much bigger. If there would have
Yeah.
been no one with him, like let's say we had all the extras in the crowd, but nobody was with him, why is he by himself? If he's trying
Mm,
to be this big over the head security, like how cool is that? Like he had his
yeah.
own team and they all had little bit like buttons that all matched and like the suits matched, little details.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny. A lot of people thought those pins were horns and people thought that he was the devil, the AEW devil.
Oh
I thought that
yes,
was
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I I was like, I love this right now. People are foreshadowing shit that we didn't even think about. So
That I mean, kudos to you for doing
yeah,
something you didn't even intend.
yeah, right, I guess. So,
But
but no,
I
I'm
mean,
glad you pick up on that stuff though.
no, it was I think it's I mean, kudos to both of you. It was a collaborative effort, but like obviously not to discount Ali, but obviously it was like the gem of the idea. I mean, it was his, but like you obviously were a big part putting that together and filming it. And sometimes people like yourselves don't get the credit you deserve, and I think that's it's important. And because it's like I'm sure Ali on his end also wants you to be like, hey, Craig also did this as well, and obviously
Yeah,
a big part of the success of it. Obviously we knew going like I'm sure I mean you knew going in that obviously okay this is going to kickstart this whole thing for Ali like this because without the video people would have been excited to see him going to TNA, going to New Japan, doing all this stuff. I mean, him coming to the UK, I would have gone. The big part of why I went to that show was Ali. If I'm being perfectly honest, I was, oh damn, he's here. I want to see him. And without that video, I'm sure I would have gone anyway. However, the buzz that created and the tone that set for his whole this whole campaign and the excitement it created was another level. Did you ever feel like going into that particular video a bit of pressure to be like, damn, like I we need to nail this one because this is kind of like
yeah,
this is setting the tone for everything. I don't know if he felt that, but like I don't know. Did you feel that to like I need to deliver for him for this one because this is setting the tone?
yeah. But I think what we did was really smart. We filmed it like in November.
Okay.
Like it was filmed way out, and we knew that we had to get it right. Well, I knew that like I wanted to deliver on it, but like he always asked me, "Do you think we can do this? We can do this." And I am I try never to be like someone that's like a yes man, like yes, we can do this if I
Mm,
don't think we can.
yeah.
But I truly believed that like if this was the like tapping out our resources, I just realized this light is crazy on my face. Sorry. I knew that if like this was something that could tap out our resources, I was willing to kind of see what that felt like. Now there were things that we tried to do that we didn't get to get, no big deal. And they were more like ambitious things. Like we wanted to shoot something where like we could see some fireworks or like some animation stuff like that. Stuff we don't normally do. He had a good idea. We kind of went with that a little bit. It just didn't work out, but I think that was fine. There's the meat and potatoes of the video, and then there's the wants, but then the needs. We need the needs.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
needs had to be what is the story? I am no longer with WWE and I'm going on tour. That's the need. Now, does the need also have to have fireworks and all this extra stuff? No, but it's cool. Definitely try to make it work, right? So going into that, he had outlined everything perfectly, which we never normally have a script. Like we usually just kind of like run and gun it. It's always laid back. This one he had a script, which was perfect because I knew exactly what we were doing. We shot it out of order, which is typical for us because we wanted to, if this didn't work, does this, disrupt something else? But also we wanted to make sure that we had good ability of moving our crowd around. So like we had to get the crowd shots. We needed everything to be frantic and we needed like we would shoot things like 10 times, which we
Mm.
don't normally do this. So crowd running to the G-Wagon 10 times, like crowd rushing up to the podium, shoot it like 10 times. But I think we did it 10 times, 10 different ways. And we also didn't make it to where it was like everybody has to do the same thing. Like continuity was not like a big thing in our head because we knew everything was going to be cut. So we just wanted to have different pieces of footage to pull from. So like if this shot lined with this footage, or if this shot looked good this way, or if this one, like the focus wasn't right, we just did 10 of everything. And then when we put it together, luckily the editing process, like it only went like two different ways. It was like we edited it one way. Okay, let's recut it a little bit and then What I ended up doing was I gave him all the footage, and he was able to like kind of cut together the sequencing, and then I was able to duplicate that, just like a little sharper or whatever.
Mm.
And then we did 2 different cuts of the video. There was a cut that if like he wanted to go the route of trying to like send this to someone, like if he wanted to do something different with it, like the stock footage could be intertwined. So the video was itself, but then like the stock cuts could have been anything else. You know, it could have been
Mm.
like, oh, I want this footage to go to AEW, and he could have put in like AEW people.
Yeah.
I want this one to go to New Japan. It could have been like New Japan, you know. So like it was very um templated, but not
Hmm.
like someone said to do it this way, but we created an outline that was like, if I had to pull a shot, could I find a shot to fit that window without making the video look really strange and weird? And I think that was the good thing about him delivering the audio over the top of a lot of the footage, because obviously the microphone wasn't real. It wasn't like
Hmm.
it broadcasted anywhere. So we knew that we just wanted to get footage of him talking and hopefully be able to match it. So that the actual script was the same, the words, but he would just deliver them in different ways. So we
Yeah.
could pick or choose.
Yeah.
And I think it turned out really well in that sense. I think if it would have went, like if there would have been anything I wish we could have shot better, I think I would have maybe shot the podium shots a little differently. But I mean, like at the end of the day, like that's just what I was thinking. It for all I know, it was as good as it needed to be, you know.
Yeah.
But I knew it was going to be, you know, by the way he was putting himself out there, I knew that I had to deliver, because I knew that this was going to either make his indie return a big deal, or it would be very indie, like, right, like, you know, it's just this guy and he's on the indies again. I did not think that it was going to be 2 million views in 24 hours, though. I thought 200K, like, and I was happy with 200K, because I was
Mm.
thinking like 200,000 eyes, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
2 million views was like bonkers. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even understand it. Like I couldn't even grab. I mean, like I didn't even know you knew 200 people, man. Like I don't, you know. So like it was wild. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool for him.
It was well deserved, man. And it was, I like, it was just obviously like every other video that comes out kind of on Twitter. If it blows up, you know, you just can't help but not see it. And I just saw just countless tweets, like obviously retweeting the video, and people like wrestling journalists, other wrestlers, fans being like, "Oh my god, look at it!" The buzz around it was, you know, like you think like the Rock's comeback or whatever, or
Yeah.
it was like, no, it was like, I'm not even over exaggerating. Like people reacted in that way, and yeah, like it was just incredible, and deservedly so, because you guys did a hell of a job, and like I said, it enhanced that excitement. Like selfishly, I love Ali because, like, not only because he's an amazing performer, but I think he's an incredible human from how he presents himself, and also like he, being a Pakistani origin Muslim man myself, you know, it's a representation of, for me, like I see, like
Yeah.
he's kind of like, yeah, like I'm like that. That's, I've never seen that before in wrestling, so that was an amazing thing for me. So like selfishly, I have that investment in him even more so than other performers, but then to see what he's done and see this kind of extra excitement behind everything because of this video was just an amazing, amazing thing. I was really excited for him, and obviously, you know, I'm glad that you guys got the credit and reaction that you were after, or it exceeded the reaction that you guys were
Yeah. It
after.
was. It was not. It was insane. I think you saying that though is kind of interesting, because the overall vibe of the earlier videos is innocent. But I think then we started, you know, dabbling into like he's always had, and what I've always appreciated about his projects and his mind is not just, I'm coming to wrestle you, I'll see you Saturday, like you know what I mean. And that's the tired old, you know, promo. I'll
Mm.
see you on the 30th, or I'll see you on Sunday. And I think the earlier videos were more like innocent, like I am Mustafa Ali and I'm gonna, you know, I was a cop and now I'm this guy. And then he did the bully video where it was like I stood by and I watched someone, you know, be bullied, and you know that is not going to happen anymore. I'm going to stand up. And that was like the early days of like, could he say something and get away with actually, you know, standing up to something? Could he, you know, could he talk about taboo topics? Because I mean, like, let's be honest, WWE has never really been an incredible ambassador for all inclusivity. You know that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the videos we did, I don't think we got much traction on it,
Mm.
but it was a video that he was really wanting to do, and I was pretty passionate about this video because I thought it was a cool idea. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Maybe I'll share some of these with you so you can see them.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
video. There's a video where he's talking to himself. Have you seen that one before?
No, I don't
It
think I
was
have. It
so
doesn't, at
remember
least not off the top of my head. I can't remember.
they did a thing. Remember when they dropped the Mustafa and they just made him Ali? And it
Yes.
was kind of just like very cliche Muslim gimmick, put him with Mansoor.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and then there was the video where it was like they they don't like someone who looks like you. They don't like someone who has a name like you. They don't like
Hmm.
someone who looks like you.
Yeah.
And he did a video where it was like, I the way I grasped the concept was it was Ali talking to his inner self, and the inner self is like, they don't care about you. They don't want to be around someone who looks like you or talks like you or thinks like you. And then it's him talking to himself, going like, I can change their mind. I can show them that they're wrong. And then it would cut back and be like, do you think they're going to listen to someone who looks like you? Like an inner demon conversation. And that video was amazing. I thought that was one of the coolest videos where he talked to himself, like he was across from himself.
Mm.
And wouldn't you know, that's the video, like videos like that they didn't want to use. They didn't want to use anything like that. Like, and I think it's unfortunate because
Yeah.
I think if the idea of the promo is to promote yourself, you would want to promote a nugget of truth about yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was his overall goal, but those were like the videos I liked the most, where he was like, I am kind of a real person, like it's kind of, this isn't me up here just being Ric Flair. Like, I am this guy. Like, I am, and I think the way I think. And I mean, whether I'm trying to be the good guy or the bad guy, but like the beliefs I'm trying to portray in the promo. I mean, like a lot of the stuff he's saying in the promo is pretty legitimate stuff. And I think that's
Mm.
what resonates with people.
Yeah.
Maybe that is what, has always been able to be like, if you're thinking of like the co-authoring concept, you know, the fans never say anything negative. Like I've had very few negative comments. And usually the comments are like, well, if WWE couldn't do anything with this guy, what makes think TNA can do something with this guy? Like just like shitty armchair quarterbacking kind of talk. But
Sure.
nobody's ever been like, oh, this guy's not good. This guy is
Mm.
not a good guy. So whatever, like, oh yeah, like you're gonna, talk about maybe he doesn't, have a gimmick that can stay consistent. That's not his fault. And if you think it's his fault, you're an idiot if you know how wrestling is produced. So, you got this guy who's resilient enough to go, okay, well, they're not letting me have this idea. I'm going to have this idea. How about this idea? How about this idea? And he kept trying. I mean, yeah, they shot all that shit down, but he still tried,
Yeah.
and that's the important thing. And like anytime he had a new idea, I'm like, cool, let's shoot it. Let's shoot
Yeah.
it. I think that like I'll send you some of the videos over. I think
Absolutely. Yeah. Please.
you'd be interested to be like, wow, like okay, these were some weird concepts that we never used. They never went for it. I mean, again, kudos to him. All his ideas were never. He's never pitched me an idea, and I was like, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna work at all.
Yeah.
It was always like, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I will say, and that's, I mean, great. And I would love to see that promo about him, the Tim talking to himself as well. That's really interesting and I'd love the idea of it as well. But like over time, like it's been evident that he's really grown as a performer. Like I think, when the Cruiserweight Classic, that period of time, he was more just I'm Mustafa Ali and I'm gonna wrestle. But he's really grown like as a overall performer. And him coming up, you could see him developing and trying things. And it was evident that WWE wasn't allowing him to do that much. But I was like, he's grown. Like this wasn't Ali from 3 years ago, 2 years ago, etc. And this video that you guys released, obviously kickstarting this whole world tour, is evident of that. Like his idea, the charisma in and which he shows, there's that tongue in cheek a little bit as well when he's doing the whole speech. There is a little bit of that, like kind of like wink, wink, or at least it feels like that to me, but like in a very fun way, like a really cool
Yep.
way. And I'm like, he probably wouldn't have done that 5 years ago, but this shows his evolution, and like
I mean,
it's great, and it's really really good.
you're right. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, and if you don't know, I'm not saying you don't know, but like people don't know, like this dude's like one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like
It's
it's no
fantastic.
question. Like it's unbelievable.
Hmm.
And like to wrestle with him gives me anxiety because like I cannot, and like I just can't hang to that. That's a work rate that's like it's like an unmeasured level of work rate in the WWE environment because there are guys there and women there that can wrestle so much better than what they give you.
Hmm.
And anybody who's been following some people, like unless you're only watching WWE product, and then when people end up from the indies there, and you're like, oh, this guy's here now, or this girl's here now, but if you didn't know who they were, you don't know.
Hmm.
But you know this. If you've followed any kind of independent wrestling, you've seen the best of the best get signed to the WWE or AEW or TNA, and then you've seen what happens to their work rate. Not saying it goes down like they can't do anything, but you know how TV wrestling translates. You do a little less, there's a little bit less of this, it's more produced. And that's
Hmm.
fine, 100%. But it's always that kind of feeling of like, if this guy or if this girl was on, some of the independents, like whether it be a Progress or a Rev Pro or at the time like an Evolve or a
Mm.
GCW, Ring of Honor at the time, like like I always tell people, it's like people who have never experienced like early like 2000s Ring of Honor, they have no clue what it's like to experience like a Brian Danielson,
Yeah.
AJ Styles,
See
Samoa Joe.
it.
Like
CM
they have
Punk. Yeah.
no, yeah, they have no idea what it was like to see that type of like wrestling. It's just different. It's just different.
Yeah.
And you got like guys like an Ali that can wrestle any of that style. It's almost like a throttled style because he could do XYZ. He's good with lucha. He's good with like he could hold his own in a strong style kind of thing. He can do any kind of technical wrestling. He's extremely good at high flying. He can do TV style where it's real basic, facing certain directions. But that's a monster. That
Mm.
type of talent is a monster. And if that guy can talk too, Jesus Christ, right? So
Yeah.
that's always been the thing. Like when this was kicking off, it was like, we know he can wrestle, but does the rest of the world know this guy can wrestle? Because
Yeah.
they're about to get rolled on. And next month, or not next month, March. So April, we got him coming back to freelance.
Yes.
I am terrified for who he's wrestling. It ain't me. I'll be there, but he's not wrestling me. There's no
Yeah.
way.
No, I
So
mean, watching him live in progress, like, I mean, I know he's good. I know he's damn good. But like seeing it up close, personal, and seeing the performance, it was amazing. Like I was blown away, and his opponent was fantastic as well. I think Leon Slater was the opponent that day, and yeah, it was beautiful stuff, and it was
they
just
are
really they were
they are
fast.
feeding him good opponents.
Yeah,
The opponents he's getting that they are feeding to this guy. I haven't seen anybody yet where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't watch that.
yeah,
you know but at the same time, it's like that style of wrestling with indie talent. It's like the first time you've seen something in HD.
mm,
You're like, whoa, oh
yeah,
crap, like that's next level. Like there's that speedball match that I don't know if that's come up yet. I want to see that.
mm,
And then he's going to be Trey Miguel, I think next weekend he's going to be here.
yes,
And then I'm pretty sure he's going to be going against Storm Grayson at freelance because he's the champ there. So it's like those are matches that are like you can't lose. Like it's going
yeah,
to be great.
mm,
And I think it's great the way they're using him. He's not just going against like quick little, like shiny indie fast guys. All the matches are kind of different. And now I
yeah,
haven't seen him go against a big guy yet. Like I want to see like like I'm trying to think who, like maybe like with the TNA stuff, like an Alexander would be like amazing, like a real
yeah, yeah,
strong, like that would be cool. But like
yeah,
I'm not worried that wouldn't happen or it wouldn't be good.
yeah.
Any of it can be good.
Or like an Ishii in like Japan or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like, oh, so sky's the limit for him. He's gonna
Yeah.
have. I'm glad he's doing it. It's not me.
We talked about obviously I like earlier storytelling, right? Like in wrestling and in the videos, telling a story, and that's probably the biggest reason why the video, like besides all the other things we talked about, why the Mustafa Ali, like the In Ali We Trust, the campaign video was so successful, is it told us everything we needed to know about Ali, about what's to come. Because I know right now he hasn't done any interviews. Like he's not doing interviews, and because in some ways he doesn't have to. Like that video said everything he needed to say. Like obviously in somewhat of a storyline capacity. However, it's still like I'm out, I'm here, and I'm coming to deliver. And my actions are going to speak when I go to TNA and I go to Progress and I go to New Japan. And he said you had Chris Sabin in the video, and he just won the X Division Championship in TNA, and we the precursor to everything that's coming now. So like in that way, like is that the biggest success of the video as well, because it's told the story of what Ali wanted and what is happening right now. Because the best videos, promo packages, etc., are the ones that have the story. Like for example, Daniel Bryan's monster video for WrestleMania 30 when he won the belt. People love that. Of the music is great and everything, but it told the whole story of Daniel Bryan being the underdog and finally reaching the main event of WrestleMania. And this is very much in that vein of like it tells the story of what Ali is gonna do now.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think like if we were as fans, right? Even if I didn't wrestle and I didn't know anything about pro wrestling other than I like what I see, effective I guess foreshadowing is always the thing that you and your friends, if you watch wrestling, you go, oh, like I didn't even see, like that was that was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you watch a good movie and like there's a scene in the beginning you don't even think about it, it's a throwaway scene, and then at the end of the movie you're like, oh, that was in plain sight the whole time. Like that stuff's so cool. But that cannot happen unless anybody takes a second and thinks about what they're trying to put out. And it doesn't take much. Again, low budget filmmaking doesn't mean bad. Low budget filmmaking just means that from the beginning to the end, there's just less hands in the cookie jar. And I think that was what allows him to go, oh, I just want to do this. And the only person standing between him and that is me. And I'm not in the way. I'm just trying to make sure it goes from start to finish. So
yeah.
if he has that idea, the good thing about that is that idea does not have to be filtered. Now, the WWE stuff we filmed, it had his idea, it had to be filtered. And I think that's the difference. The difference between this is what I want to do and this is how I want to have it and this is what I'm trying to tell you versus this is what I want to tell you. This is what they're telling me I can say, and I'm going to show you this, but this is what they're allowing me to show. And then I think it should be this, but it maybe should be this too. Like there's all of that different influence in there, and that stuff always sucks. Or it's just never as impactful because there's always an agenda.
It's watered down.
Yeah. Agendaless, media, when he's just trying to say, I'm trying to do this is what I want to do, and this is how I want it to be, you can't lose because it's authentic. Now, is it for everybody? Maybe not. But I think for the core audience that he was going after, people that have been seeing him kind of like stuck under the thumb of WWE for so long, anybody who's been paying attention that doesn't just think he sucks, they're realizing this dude's been suppressed a bit. When this came out, this was like the breath of fresh air. It was like the movie, it was the sequel to a movie you loved the whole time, So that's kind of the way it came out.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, going back, I was so fascinated to talk to you because obviously, you were obviously a huge part of this kind of putting this all together. But so in around the world, like today, in other forms of media, film, even on like social media, vloggers, etc., we know the people behind the videos. Like we know the cinematographers, the directors, or the social media vloggers, whoever. We know who made them, and they're spotlighted. But in wrestling, it's still not that frequent. Like for example, the person who made the Daniel Bryan video for the WWE, I know it's a WWE production, but I don't know if I could say off the top of my head who made that video.
Yeah,
Like or in TNA or AEW or wherever. Like it's the company, but I don't know the individual. And that almost makes me feel bad because I'm like, there is someone in there who's an absolute freaking genius. Like the My Way video for Stone Cold and The Rock, one of the best ever, like in professional wrestling. But I couldn't tell you who made that. Like it's so it's like it's a shame because it's like these things are such a massive part of professional wrestling. So like to see now, obviously, you in your own in space get this kind of credit, and a little bit more like it comes in like, especially in the independent level when smaller companies, people are showing spotlighting the guys who are making this, is a really big thing for me, because I feel like this is a really big thing in wrestling. We kind of take it for granted as fans, I think, sometimes, but it's really important to spotlight the people who do it, because it's sometimes just as important than as the kind of the matches sometimes, because this is a part of telling the story.
Yeah, they're real people, like
Yeah.
they're people with just ideas, just like you and me. And I think they had brought a guy out. I forget his name. I follow him on social media. They brought a guy out to follow Ali around
Hmm.
when we were filming something. It was like an actual WWE guy, and they did like a
Oh yeah.
vignette on him. But the crazy thing was, like, he was just like me. He just happened to have a job with WWE, which is cool. I don't.
Yeah.
So like he had a job with WWE, but like he just had more sense of like what they were looking for. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, he was just like the same thing as me. Like he was just a videographer there filming stuff. And I think that was kind of cool. That was kind of like what made me go like, oh, okay, like I don't suck at this. Like even though I'm never ever putting myself out there to be more than I am. I'm very aware of where my start and end is. There is levels to this, and I'm very aware of that. But that doesn't mean you don't try or you don't shoot for something you maybe. But you know what? Like, but I think if you know what you're capable of and you at least try something different, well then if it doesn't work, there's kind of like a sense of like, well, I kind of know where I'm not going to try again and fail this or make this look muddy or make it what it shouldn't be. Just like then hide the negatives, accentuate the positives. So like when I'm talking to this guy and I'm looking at his rig setup and his like $30,000 camera gear setup, I go, well, this guy is at a different level. But at the end of the day, the goal doesn't require this.
Yeah.
Now, is it cool? Is it a cool want? Yes. Is it a need? I mean, we just saw that. I mean, like I shot everything based on his idea, which his idea is the golden, principle of this, but like the gear does not matter. The story matters. You know, if I've had people ask me, what camera do you use? What lens do you use? And when I tell them what I use, they're like, oh shit, like I'm like, Canon M50, Mark One, not even the Mark Two, just old. I just like it because it's good in low light. You know, uh, Prime, Canon 50 mm, Sigma 17 mm prime, Rode mic. I like the Rode mic. I like the fuzzy small one because it doesn't bobble around a lot when you move. It doesn't shake. That's the only reason I even went with that one, and it's a lesser mic. It's called the Rode Mic Go.
Yeah.
I like it. It doesn't make any noise. So if someone bumps me or like hits the camera, it doesn't shake. Also, the only real reason that I use those other lenses is because when they do autofocus, you don't hear it. It's a silent motor.
Yeah.
So I just prefer nothing to stop from what I'm shooting to the shot. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to have anything be like on me. Like, oh, what happened? Oh, my gear caused me like, hold on, guys, I got to recalibrate something. Like, it's just out of the box, pop a lens, we're going, as long as it's dialed into where I need it to be. So that's the only reason like that it's that way. Like it would be nice to have better gear or use bigger gear, but bigger gear is bigger production, requires more attention, more delay. This and going back to like Casey Neistat, that was the only reason I even got into that. Originally using a 70D. And the reason I liked the 70D was it had great dual pixel autofocus, E-mount lens, which means I was given the greatest library of lenses I can get my hands on. It was enough of a body to where if I dropped it, it wouldn't break. Like that was conscious decision. If I wanted to go with production, like a cinema Canon camera, I dropped that. I might as well kill myself. That's like $8,000 camera, right? But these things are like Tic Tacs. You break one, it's like $400. No big
Yeah.
deal. You replace it. So I think that was always the conscious decision based on gear was, is it easy to get? Is it easy to use? Could I, but also like if I had to like shoot the footage and give it to someone, I didn't want to be giving them footage they didn't know how to, like some crazy raw footage where they didn't know how to color grade it. Everything was all Canon color science, easy. I mean, I touched up the color, but if I had to give it to somebody, it looked pretty good out of the camera to begin with. As long as you exposed it right and everything like that, that's all we cared about. Very minimal color production or color grading on all the videos. Everything we wanted blues, we set the balance right, and we just set it in the camera. A little bit of adjustments after the fact, but I even would just make my presets. Like I would make all my LUT presets, and when I was editing, I just drop them in, made it easy. So it was very easy to get these videos pumped out really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
And
that's that's I mean that's really cool to hear as well. The fact that you have that comparison with the like seeing the WWE kind of professional and person in action, and then seeing yourself in action and realizing that hey, it's we're alike, but we're just he just happens to be in WWE, and
yeah,
I'm on this side of the fence, so to speak. But that's I think it's great to hear for everybody to be like, well, just because you're so and so's over there doesn't mean you can't do it as well. So I think that's really a kind of in a way inspiring message as well for everybody. And just my final two questions, Craig, and again, thank you again for your time. Um, could you give us a favorite memory of shooting this most recent Ali video of like the Ali campaign and in Ali We Trust, that whole political video? Is there a fondness or like a memory that you'll look back on and be like, I really love that moment when we did that?
yeah. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because the best thing about it was every one of the extras was wrestlers, like was people from the school, so we all knew each other. I've
Yeah.
said this time and time again. If a film company needed extras, hire independent pro wrestlers. They take direction so good. You tell them look excited, they look excited. You tell them look sad, they look sad. You want them to move, scream, be physical, move. Like I'm gonna bump you and you move. They're so animated. But I think the cool thing about it was everyone was like-minded. It wasn't like someone was there and we like went through an agency and was like, all right, thank you. And then they showed up and they're like, what do I do? Everybody was there. Everybody knew each other. Everybody was very familiar. We either all had wrestled each other, all from the same school. They used to work, they still work. It was all the same. So when we were done, like when we filmed, I think we had like we shot that whole everything in 2 hours, I think.
Wow.
Everything, because we only had the studio for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And when we were done and we wrapped it and we went, all right, everybody, that was cool. That was a wrap. Everybody applauded, and they were all there for the same reason. So it was super easy. It wasn't no hidden agenda. Hey, we need some help. Cool. And everybody showed up. And that's, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better turnout. Everybody there was there for the same reason, which was cool.
That's amazing, and it feels like it's kind of like people talk about like the family element of professional wrestling as well, and that kind of seems to show it as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we have like 2 years, 3 years from now, like the who's who. You'll see that video and you'll be like, oh my god, that guy's signed now, or that guy's doing this now. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like when you have when people pull up the little videos of like MJF being like a security guard in WWE or something like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And my final question is like you alluded to it, I think in like a message exchange that we had earlier on. Any teases that you could potentially give of like possible future projects with Ali, or maybe even just elsewhere within wrestling?
So with Ali, or at this time, not anything too much. I know, and I'm not saying this isn't anything like crazy, but like one of the things that I will be doing soon, which I'm actually really happy to do, is I'm going to help with New Japan. I'm going to be doing some interviews at one of the shows in
Oh,
Chicago.
amazing.
So like, I mean, like that's just cool for me. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm very grateful to be able to help shoot some background like promos and stuff, because that's cool, dude.
Mm,
That's like the only other project I have coming up that I'm like, this happened directly because of the Ali thing. Like it couldn't,
amazing.
it's not like they were like, that guy. Like they were like, oh, well, at least this guy knows how to use a camera and he wrestles. So he knows how to work himself around people. Plus, a lot of the guys that are from the area are going to be on the show. So it'll be an easy, like, environment to be in. So
Yeah,
that's like my only other project I got coming up.
nice. No, well, congratulations on that, man, because that's again shows the ripple effect of that, and you people seeing that you did that. So that's that, and that's New Japan is nothing to scoff at, man. That's an amazing gig. So
It's
congratulations
all
on that. Well
it's
deserved,
all
also.
fun. Thank you, man. It's all fun. Like, and I think that's the thing. I want to do this and have it be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't make a living doing it, so it's like
Mm,
it has to be fun, right? I'm doing it
mm,
for fun.
yeah.
But I think because that's the drive, there is a greater sense of like, oh, well, like this is cool. This turned out really well. Like, oh, maybe we could try this. There's not as much of that. Like, and if you know what I mean, you do something for a living, you're like, oh shit, I got all these things to do. I got this deadline. I got to get. There's none of that. It's just this is fun. oh, we get to do this. Like that's the vibe. I get to do this. It's not, oh, I have to do this. Like you get the opportunity and you get the ability to do something that you like to do and it's fun. Sign me up. I mean, like how often do people, you see people every day, people are miserable as shit and they're doing a bunch of things they don't want to do. Me included. I do things I don't want to do all the time. But if I get to do something I want to do, that's awesome. Like that's super fun.
Yeah,
So
100%. And I think that is a brilliant way to end it, man, because I love that. I love that message. And thank you again, man, for your time. I genuinely really appreciate it. It was awesome to hear kind of everything that went into this. And I hope that maybe we can do this again one day and we can talk about more future projects that I'm sure you will do down the road because you're damn talented, man. And you've done an amazing job on some of the stuff in the past. And I'm sure you'll do more incredible stuff moving forward as well.
yeah, man, I appreciate it. This was fun. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, man.